There was one earthquake. It's June 11th on the Gregorian calendar. It's actually June 1st on the Julian calendar. And the earthquake occurred at about 1 in the afternoon. The main earthquake itself shook very, very strongly in Massachusetts, in Rhode Island, in Connecticut, and along the St. Lawrence River. The people in Plymouth had trouble standing up, the shaking was so strong. At Trois-Rivières, the earthquake was splashing water out of the pots of the people who were cooking at the time. The interesting aspect of John Winthrop's report to me is the statement that he makes after talking about the earthquake. He says something to the effect that the earth was unsettled for 20 days afterward. Now, what we know is that any strong earthquake is going to be followed by aftershocks. We see that in the New England record, we see that in the California record, we see that all over the world. The most frequent aftershocks, and usually the strongest aftershocks, occur shortly after the main shock. So the first day after the main shock or the second day is when you tend to have the strongest aftershocks and the most frequent aftershocks. And then they get fewer and fewer and fewer as you go on. I think that the 1638 earthquake was a magnitude about 6.5 earthquake. We're talking about an earthquake approaching the size that hit the San Francisco Bay Area in 1989 or that hit the Los Angeles area in 1994. And so that would have been followed by a very, very protracted, probably, aftershock sequence. What's interesting to me is that he reports a number of aftershocks being felt in the Boston area, which means that Boston could not have been too terribly far from the epicenter of this 1638 earthquake. I've done studies that have suggested that the 1638 earthquake, if it was centered in central New Hampshire, basically somewhere between Concord, New Hampshire and Lake Winnipesaukee, which is our most seismically active area today, an earthquake in 1638 centered there would explain the areas where the earthquake was felt most strongly and would explain the aftershock activity that I think was felt in Boston. Of course, we know that in 1639, January 1639, there was yet another stronger aftershock that was felt, and that's not unusual for the New England region to have a stronger aftershock that late after a large earthquake. I would think that they would have been over 4.0. Certainly, we had a smaller earthquake in 1727, and there we had aftershocks that were 4.0 and greater. And a 4.0 earthquake in the New England region would be felt over 50 or 80 or perhaps even 100 miles from the epicenter.